kick it off, I will just first of all welcome and thanks again, Kevin and Markus, for taking the time to provide us feedback on the IBP implementation we did for Varian. Just if you want to introduce yourselves quickly, and then we will launch into the Q&A.
Sure, I'm Kevin Lau, Senior Director for the Global S&OP program for Varian, now part of Siemens Healthineers.
And my name is Markus Vogel. I'm Senior Manager on the supply chain and PLM side in the Business Transformation Office within Varian, Siemens Healthineers company now.
Okay, thanks. And this is Ashutosh Bansal. I'm the CEO and President for GitaCloud. We implemented Varian Medical last year. It's been a very challenging time given the COVID situation. We were working fully remote, although that wasn't the plan. So we still finished the project, and today's presentation, we would like to hear from Kevin and Markus about what their experience was, why did they do what they did, what led to IBP. So let me just start out, Kevin and Markus, first of all, what was it like before Varian thought about implementing SAP IBP? What problems were you trying to solve?
I guess I will start. So it's been a 2-year journey for us. When I started at Varian 2 years ago, there really wasn't much of a formal S&OP process in place to help manage our supply and demand processes. So we really started from scratch. We started from a very immature state on the S&OP side, and quickly at least had an ad hoc and process that we were able to use that was somewhat effective. But what we found with that process was that it was highly labor intensive, quite inefficient, and still didn't provide the level of data integrity that we needed to make better decisions for our business. So we did decide to look at IBP as a solution to help us put together a more cohesive, automated, and efficient process across all 5 steps of the S&OP process. Our focus really was on demand, supply, and integrated financial reconciliation. Those were the areas where we primarily needed IBP support. So over the 2-year period, with now the implementation of IBP, we've seen pretty dramatic strides and progress in terms of the maturity of the process compared to where we were when we started the process. So I would say from a stakeholder perspective, everyone's been very pleased with the progress that we've made, and we've been very pleased with the tools, the additional tools, the additional more effective processes that IBP brought to the table.
Yeah, and from my side, I'm probably coming more a little bit from the technical side. But as Kevin mentioned, right, I think the process, S&OP as a process is fairly new at Varian. And before we had IBP, everything was running on some sort of disconnected Excel spreadsheets, which is not unheard of, I think, right, in the industry. A lot of customers do a lot of planning in Excel, but what we try to do is essentially connect the dots and get away from this multiple sources of truth where finance has a spreadsheet, the supply planners have a spreadsheet, the demand planners have a spreadsheet, into an integrated planning system for S&OP. And I think we did a pretty good job, and GitaCloud helped us get there. And it helped ultimately get us from a process maturity standpoint. I almost think from a lagging state, right? When you think of process maturity, maybe not in a leading state yet, but at least in the optimization state. Yeah.
Okay. That's great. So given Markus, you mentioned GitaCloud, can I ask the process of evaluation Varian Medical went through once you decided to implement SAP IBP? How did you search for implementation partners? What made GitaCloud stand out from other service providers?
I can start on this one, Kevin. So I think we went into the market and we looked not only at IBP initially, but also at other S&OP planning tools. But at some point, then settled more towards the IBP solution. And once we had that done, I think in the market, we looked at various players. We worked with SAP directly as well. And we had, what made GitaCloud stand out at the end, I think, is the tailoring of the workshops we did. It was much more, when we went through those initial exploration workshops, I think, before we signed the contract, it was much more than a standard sales pitch, which GitaCloud provided. So we always had the feeling that the GitaCloud consultants listened, they understood our problems, they understand our industry, they understand the make to order or configurable material complexities we're dealing with. And GitaCloud was able to come up with a really comprehensive solution proposal at the end. I think that's what it made it stand out.
Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, I'll just tack on to that because I wasn't as involved in the selection process as Markus. So, but just talking about kind of the aftermath of the selection and working with GitaCloud, having worked with a lot of consultants in my career, one of the challenges with consultants is that many times people come in with a preconceived solution that they try to push onto an organization. And I think GitaCloud's approach was different in that GitaCloud made the investment in the discovery, in the learning of the Varian business, rather as an initial step, and then came up with the right solution based on the needs of our business and the requirements of our business, as opposed to a backward approach where you're coming with a solution and trying to force the business to fit that solution. So I think the approach that GitaCloud had was starting to learn and listen was the right approach for our business. We know that across any industry, across any businesses, there are going to be nuances, there are going to be intricacies that are very unique to that business. And understanding and learning that initially is a very important part of developing the right solution. So I think that's where, in my experience with working with many consultants, that's really the difference is start with a listening attitude and a learning attitude, and then understand what we're trying to accomplish together, and then come up with a customized, use the word loosely customized, but a solution that is more tailored to what the actual needs, gaps, and objectives are for the business that you're working with.
Well, I appreciate that. Just to keep the feedback balanced, because we want to learn all the time from our customers. So could you also talk to us regarding, while you articulated some of the positive qualities, where did you see some challenges or surprises maybe in anything we said or did that you didn't expect us to? What could we have or should we have done differently?
I'll kind of start with that. I think one of the things that we all learned was in the initial timeline that we put together for implementation, there probably should have been more emphasis on understanding the as-is state. Good example of that is just the master data and data integrity that we have today. And there was maybe some assumptions that we had better integrity than we actually had. And those timelines were based on some assumptions around accurate data. So I think it kind of goes both ways, right? To be able to put together a good timeline for the project and effective milestones, there has to be a clear baseline of a starting point. And I think that maybe we should have spent a little more time on what are some of the deficiencies that we currently have and how long is it going to take us to resolve some of those deficiencies to actually put a timeline together that makes sense. So from that respect, I think maybe a little more due diligence at the beginning of the process. Not so much on the GitaCloud side, but really what is the starting baseline on the Varian side? Because I think there were some gaps that we found that maybe we didn't anticipate at the beginning that if we had known, we probably would have put together a more realistic timeline around implementation and some of the, build in some time to resolve some of those issues.
Okay. Markus, you want to add to that?
No, I think Kevin summed it up pretty well. I think we master data surprises were coming up, right, which attributed ultimately to delay compared to the initial plan. The other thing I do think, which we probably could have done better, and that's more the ability of the organization to absorb change and to work on a project. I think we're making this assumption a lot of times that, and probably GitaCloud made that assumption as well, right? You come into a project and you have a set of consultants and a set of IT people who are assigned full-time to that project. But you have a business team that has a day-to-day job to do. And that day-to-day job consumes naturally 70, 80% of their time. And I think we made the assumption that besides their day-to-day job, they can absorb all the changes with a brand new S&OP process, which is very integrated, which requires a lot of coordination, requires a lot of coordination on all levels, right? On executive level, all the way down to the individual planner level, because ultimately it's a tool where we base critical business decisions on. And I think that's a lesson learned for me to come out of this for the next project, to really be more considerate of resources, right?
That's good feedback. Given Kevin and Markus, in my mind, we built a fairly innovative solution. IBP, as you know, doesn't integrate natively well with the variant configuration in S4, and we did that. Could you talk to us about how you perceive us as having transitioned the knowledge about that innovative solution to the IT team, to the business team, to be able to run the solution on your own? How did you see GitaCloud not just building the solution, but essentially transitioning over to Varian?
Yeah, I can answer that. I think first of all, the solution is really good and like you said, Ashutosh, innovative. I think it tackles the main problem we have with our configured materials, that we have a product that is sold in 2,000 variants essentially, which makes planning really a challenge. And I think the solution the GitaCloud team came up with allows us to synthesize this down for a demand planner to a level which is manageable, right, for a demand or supply planner. And it's scalable, right, which is a big advantage compared to what we did in Excel. It's scalable to all our hardware products, not only to a handful of machine or main products. And from a knowledge transfer perspective, I think the GitaCloud team did a really good job with documentation and relaying and doing knowledge transfer to the internal team, which allowed us to ultimately tweak the solution quite a bit, right? Since GitaCloud is since the project officially ended, and we're still utilizing GitaCloud on a support basis. But ultimately, the knowledge transfer was so good that our internal team could take it forward and could tweak it to our specific needs. So that was really done well.
Kevin, you want to add to that? What has been the experience of planners in your team working with IBP?
I think that the overall experience has been very favorable and very positive. But I think what Markus mentioned earlier, the change management piece is always one that's a big challenge for any organization, and especially for an organization like Varian that's been around for decades now, has been very successful doing what we've been doing for many, many years. So the case for change sometimes is difficult, and trying to get people to understand the value proposition that some of these new tools and new programs, and not just IBP, but just S&OP in general, trying to sell the organization on that value proposition on the surface is easy, but then the change that comes along with those processes sometimes are difficult for an organization to absorb. So I really do think that we have to look at every organization, the appetite for change, and then have a change management plan for the staff and the teams, in addition to just the tool. So I think there are different parts of the implementation that we have to, if I were to do this again, probably spend more time on a plan for organizational change management and not just the implementation of the tool. I think those two really have to go hand in hand. So if you don't have that support on the change management side at the highest levels of the organization, then there's no tool that's going to be effectively implemented. I mean, you have to have that dedication at the top to be able to distill down to the entire organization to drive the changes that we need, and tools that we put in place obviously are important in the selection and the implementation of it, but those two have to go hand in hand in my mind.
Very good. Markus, any additional thoughts in that area?
No, completely agree. I mean, I think one of the learnings over the years, right, is really that ultimately you have to improve the process and the organization around a company that grew quite massively, I think, over the last few years, right? And we have very ambitious goals as Varian. We want to double our revenue in the next few years, and that comes with changed organizational requirements and changed process requirements, and the tool like IBP should just complement that ideally at the end, right? And what we did with IBP is we put a platform in place, I think, which is great, which is scalable. We made some organizational changes in the meantime to scale the organization, or to be able to scale the organization regarding future growth. And maybe we should have done that more towards the beginning of the project. Fair enough, but I think ultimately we have an organization with Kevin's whole organization now in place that really allows us to utilize the tool and future expansions, right, into order-based planning eventually, to utilize the tool in a very effective manner.
So that's a great segue to where I wanted to go next, Markus. Given all the successes till date, could you also talk about the overall transformation journey? Where are you guys going? How do you see further leveraging of the IBP asset?
So from my side, right, for us, when we started this journey, and you remember that in the workshops, right, we said, okay, IBP S&OP, like the long-term demand planning, is more of an initial phase in our IBP journey. But it became pretty apparent during the project already that there are quite a few gaps in our short-term planning world as well. And we still have those. We still have gaps between how we integrate our actual sales order demand into the whole supply planning funnel. And we do plan on tackling those with IBP order-based planning. So as part of our transformation journey, like you mentioned, and our quote to cash transformation project, which is going on right now and will go on for the next 2 years, we are planning to implement order-based planning as part of this journey, to really tightly integrate supply and demand planning on a tactical level, on a short-term level, and also to scale us and to make sure we have a solution in place that works with Varian's changed business model, right? We're moving further away from a single factory, single product, single factory environment, more to multi-sourcing environments and multi-plant environments, and building a really robust and resilient network. And IBP will help us tremendously supporting that going forward.
Just great.
I think we were very fortunate that we started the IBP process early on in our S&OP implementation. Now, to Markus's point, yeah, day one would have been better, but that was not a possibility. So, as I said, where I feel fortunate is that we started it at a point in time where there was still flexibility to develop the processes that we needed. The scalability comment that Markus made is the most important to me. Now that we have IBP as a tool, I look at the IBP as an enabler to continue the maturity of the S&OP process, that we have a baseline tool and then we have some processes in place, that we have a vision of where we want to go in the future. And I think IBP helps provide that. And if you try to put IBP together 5 years, 6 years down the line of S&OP implementation, I think there are more challenges. But the fact that we did it early on starts to give us a little bit of a blueprint of how we want the future to look, and a little bit of direction for the team over the next couple of years. The S&OP is not, it's a journey, right? Anytime you want to implement an S&OP program, it doesn't happen in 1 or 2 years. It's generally a 3-5+ year endeavor, and it takes some time to implement a world-class S&OP process. So to have the basic building blocks in place at the beginning of the process makes a significant difference in terms of how fast you can mature and establish the processes that are required. So, we're still in my mind, still at the beginning of our S&OP journey. And that was the right time for us to look at IBP as the right tool and GitaCloud as the right firm to help us implement that tool.
Okay, that's great. So I think we are coming to a good closer at this point. Any final thoughts around lessons learned? What kind of feedback you got from the executive steering committee around this project and the benefits they are seeing in general? Do you have any final thoughts either regarding SAP IBP as a solution or GitaCloud as a provider?
Kevin?
I guess my final thoughts are change never happens as fast as we expect or as fast as we hope. So even with all the good work that we did with IBP, we recognize that at the end of the project, there are still gaps. There are still areas where we need to continue to focus on. One of the dangers is overcommitting to our executive team with a solution that says, hey, we're going to have everything in place by XYZ date without taking all the other factors into account. So I would be a little more careful around making firm commitments in terms of any tool, whether it's IBP or anything else, is again, and go back to the change management piece and understanding the starting point of any organization. You have to have some realistic expectations. Every organization is different. Varian, I think, has done a really good job with the change management. But still, even today with the initial implementation, there are still areas where we need to shore up. And I think that's going to be an ongoing challenge for us, quite frankly.
Yeah. Same with you. You bring up a good point, Kevin. I think we have to start thinking on those projects more along the lines that within a defined project scopes, we're trying to put a platform in place, right? And once the project is done as such, right, in a traditional sense, the platform is in place, and then starts the real change management and rollout phase, which really need to start planning separately, especially for tools like S&OP, where it's really risky to do like a big bang approach, right? And I think that's something we can take and think about for the order-based planning side for IBP supply and response. Once we start that journey, to really plan it out properly and think right at the beginning think about a rollout or like a change management plan right in the beginning of the project, because the platform will be in place relatively quick, again, is my guess. But how to adapt this across all the plans and all the organization in Varian, that's going to be the challenge. And I'm looking forward to have discussions with GitaCloud on our supply and response journey, which will be coming up maybe later this year. And yeah, that's
okay.
I'm hoping that this is going to be as successful as the S&OP piece.
We'll make sure of that for sure. So Kevin and Markus, thank you very much. This was excellent. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the partnership we have seen from the very beginning, right from as you said, Markus, correctly, the extended pre-evaluation, the proof of concepts we did, the mental alignment we got to before kicking off the project. I think that's really important. The partnership we saw throughout the execution phase, where essentially the internal IT team became sort of co-consultants, right, working with us. Yeah. We were able to leverage all your knowledge about the S4 side of the world, your experience with SAP. You were able to leverage our knowledge around IBP, and how the two teams, in my mind, seamlessly fused together to deliver the best experience for the business team. That, in my mind, was a critical success factor. So I look forward to the partnership continuing. Just appreciate it, and thanks again for all the positive feedback and your time, frankly, on this call. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
This concludes the presentation, guys. Look forward to more such videos from other customers. Thank you.